You need to understand that your audience can get overwhelmed with either visual or auditory information. If I'm suddenly talking to you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, like John F. Kennedy doing his speeches and that, and I give you lots of detail about cancer genes and so on, you can very quickly lose the thread. And if I present a hyper-complex slide that takes 10 minutes to understand, on a good day, you've lost the audience already. So one of the key things to take home is simplicity and clean lines on your slides. Have only a few points and make sure those are the points that you want to get across to your audience. You need to view content as helping your delivery, not being the center point for the delivery. So if you're going to put a slide up of data from your latest research, make absolutely sure that that data is relevant to what you're saying and what you want to get across. If you need to explain a complex diagram, it better be worth it. Otherwise, you will lose your audience and they will start picking up their phones and looking at Twitter. So I'm going to just show you the interface that Prezi uses, but bear in mind, Prezi is not the thing I'm trying to advertise. There are many different ways of doing this, even within PowerPoint. So let's get that set up. So what you're seeing at the moment is the bare screen for Prezi video. You actually create the Prezi presentations in a different bit of software, and then you pull them in to the Prezi video environment. And you can see over here, I've got this untitled video. It's being recorded via Zoom, but you can record it directly inside Prezi. And over here, we can create content where I can just write simple content over here. This is fairly bare bones. You can just enter text over here, but quite quickly you can see that you can also add visuals over here, and those will punch in there. So you've got simple control over here of both visuals over here and text over here. And what you're doing is you're giving the presenter, myself in this case, you hopefully in the future, more control over interacting with the actual audience. I'm sitting here staring at a camera and you can actually see me. I'm not some tiny little square up on the screen over here, as I might appear on your Zoom presentation. So there's more of an actual interaction with the speaker. And you don't actually have to have super complex diagrams over here. You can have simple text. However, you can also pull in your PowerPoint presentation itself over here, and your PowerPoint presentation can take up the screen in this area next to your face. So you can have a blank area as opposed to a picture of somewhere in the Cape in South Africa, and you can have your content sitting here. So those are the simple bare bones. You could mess this up just the same as you could mess up any PowerPoint presentation by putting a hyper complex picture just over here with tons of text over here. So remember those points about simplification, making sure it enforces or supports the type of information you're trying to get across to your audience. What I realized quite early on, and this was something that Kate Leslie nudged me on years ago in a talk she gave on presentations, is that while we'd love to be all singing and all dancing doctors, we aren't visual artists and we aren't graphic artists. And some of us are blessed with skills and we can go and sketch something out that looks beautiful, but we either don't have the time or skills to do very visually appealing slides. And so Kate had said that she would take her research data and hand that on to someone who could generate visually appealing tables and graphs that made her talks more effective. And so I took that idea and ran with it and decided to do the Mary Burnell lecture using a graphic artist who I'd connected with. I gave him the idea, I gave him essentially a storyline, and we worked together to create the visuals that he put together. So it was professional help, fair enough. But we then had what we liked, quite a clean presentation where the presenter is part of it, but you've got engaging pictures to help the narrative, to help the talk along. So this was the presentation at the ANZCA ASM, and you can see that I've created a neutral background and the writing has started, the credits have rolled. What the artist Bill did, Bill Hope up in the Blue Mountains, was to take the concepts that I was trying to get across in the lecture and just put them into pictures that helped the audience, that created a little visual storyline to look at, but that didn't overwhelm you with data, didn't overwhelm you with fancy pictures, that took time to understand. Hopefully we got the ideas across. Hopefully it was engaging for those of you who watched it. But the principle was to keep it simple. Every time we came up with an idea that got super complex and we went, oh no, that's going to take time, we just trimmed it out and said, if someone came in as a lay person, would they be able to engage with this talk? That was our sort of bottom line during the talk. And anything that looked too complex, we generally stripped out and hopefully came up with quite a clean, tight storyline that was supported by the visuals, not overwhelmed by the visuals. The time that it takes a professional artist to do these things is a fraction of the time that you will spend as someone who's an amateur on Adobe Illustrator or any kind of area. And the amount of time that it actually took Bill and I to put that presentation together was not dissimilar to the amount of time I put into my own other talks where I was handling all the graphics. So I would say, yes, you do have to spend a little bit of cash for this sort of thing, but if it's a special talk that has meaning to you, then I would actually think of investing this type of money. It won't actually take a lot more time for you, and you'll end up with a very professional presentation that might have more impact than if you tried to cobble it together yourself.